I will be reading a passage from the Gospel of Mark in the NIV translation, chapter 12, verses 28 through 34. One of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating. Noticing that Jesus had given them a good answer, he asked him, "Of all the commandments, which is the most important?" "The most important one," answered Jesus, "is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. The second is this: Love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these." "Well said, teacher," the man replied. "You are right in saying that God is one, and there is no other but him. To love him with all your heart, with all your understanding, and with all your strength. And to love your neighbor as yourself is more important than all burnt offerings and sacrifices." When Jesus saw that he had answered wisely, he said to him, "You are not far from the kingdom of God." And from then on, no one dared ask him any more questions.
Morning. I'd like to again welcome all our visitors that might be with us this morning. I ask that you stick around and let us get to know you and talk to you and learn about you. I am David Maynard. I'm one of the shepherds here at Broken Arrow. Let's turn this on. I am not Tim Piles. Tim Piles is on vacation in Florida. I was noticing the weather that might be kind of wet and thunderstormy for him, but if they're not also maybe in Corinth, Mississippi with Kim's mother, I have not heard an update on her. This congregation is feeling a loss this morning in the death of Bill Rhodes, and I appreciate the announcement from the family of we want to celebrate that, and that we can do. It's been a busy week. It's post-vacation Bible school. It's post-New Heights. And again, we want to thank all the visitors and all the volunteers that came and participated in Vacation Bible School and New Heights. And we pray that those be a great effect in our community. It's back to school time. At the end of our service, we would like to have a special prayer for the students and the teachers and the administrators that will be returning to school. If your child is in Bible hour and you would like for them and think they would participate in that, we ask that you go and get them during the invitation song so they can be back in here in the auditorium so they can be a part of that. Our college and young professionals are on a retreat. This is the last week before a lot of them head back to university. 3 of our elders are with them: Richard Davis, Tim Walton, and Dave Larson. The Olympics has been going on for 2 weeks, haven't they? What encouragement there is in seeing some of those stories, some of the backstories on the adversity, the persistence, the great things that they have overcome in order to compete in the Olympics. But speaking of great stories, Chet McDaniel, you can see that in your bulletin. Please look at Scott Keel's section. He will be here on September the 19th. That's a Wednesday evening. You will not want to miss that. He is a great presenter, a great motivator, and please read and be prepared for that. August 26th, LTC Fair. Those that are participating in LTC know some of the events, but if you're new to LTC, you need to know about all the various things. And on August the 26th, that Sunday evening, we will have a special LTC Fair where you can learn more about that. And yes, you can be recruited as a coach. More immediately tonight, we'll be hearing from Andy Crawford. Andy is relatively new to this congregation, but he and his wife, Delora, and son, Reese, have jumped right in and being a teacher and being involved in our education program. Next Sunday is our Life Group Sunday. Scott will be preaching that Sunday morning, and we'll then have our Life Group meetings later. Tomorrow will be a celebration of Bill Rhodes, and that will be great. It'll also be Patrick Edison's 42nd birthday. I've recently been influenced by a presentation by the man by the name of Eric Wilson. He has, he's in the process of writing a book on irrefutable laws of spiritual growth. He has not completed that book, so whether it's going to be 6, whether it's going to be 7, or whether it's going to be 8 is still, I want to list 5 here that I find that there's the law of intentionality. If you're going to grow spiritually, if you're going to do something different, if you're going to lose weight, if you're going to run faster, if you're going to be stronger, you've got to be intentional about it. You've got to be deliberate. You've got to be purposeful. Uncomfortable with the status quo. If you're going along in life and life is just okay, in order to grow, you've got to be uncomfortable with the status quo. You've got to do something different. The law of adherence. Once you've made that determination that you want to do something different, then you've got to adhere to it. You've got to stick to it. You've got to be like peanut butter on the roof of your mouth and just stick to it, okay? The law of adherence. The law of community. Eric is finding in his study, and he's going cross cultures with this and developing all the evidence that these laws pertain to any culture across continents, across language barriers. The law of community. In order to grow spiritually, there's got to be a community involved, whether that be family or friends or a church. The law of adversity. Again, if you're thinking about growing your muscles and being stronger, and you start lifting those weights, your muscles get sore. Your muscles get tired. And that in spiritual growth, that your spiritual muscles get tired. They get sore. So there is the law of adherence. Well, I intentionally marked on my involvement sheet that I would be willing to give a talk. Now, what I thought I was volunteering to do might be a Wednesday evening devotional, a Sunday evening joint effort with somebody else, or maybe a holiday devotional. Not in my wildest dreams did I believe I'd be here on Sunday morning presenting to you. This is not the status quo. I am not supposed to be standing here, and I am extremely uncomfortable. I've made it on 2 of them, right? But I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to get through this, and you're all witnesses, and you're all going to be a part of this experience. So what's the point? You all are witnessing a spiritual growth episode. So hang in there as we all grow together. Love in the New Testament. What we want to do this morning is we want to look at some verses in the New Testament about love. Then we want to answer the question of the hour. How can I tell if I am in love or not? And then we want to make an application. Love in the New Testament. The word love, by my count, in the New International Version, appears in the New Testament 264 times. And if you look in the Gospel of John alone, it is there 48 times. That's 48 times in 21 chapters. If you look at the epistle of 1 John, you find the word love 39 times. That's 39 times in only 5 chapters. Thus, the Apostle John is known as the Apostle of Love. Now, as my friend Scott Keel would say, what you need to know about that is this. In our New Testament, there's the word love, and our English word love. But in the Greek, there are at least 4 other words that they use, that we translate in English as love. Okay? We might say we love pizza, and we say we love God, or we may say we love golf, or we may say we love our children, and that's all using the same word. That you'll find in the Greek that those are different words. Now let's look at some verses in the New Testament that involve love, and then make some general observations about that. Start in Matthew. Love your enemies, Matthew 5:44. Love your neighbor, Matthew 19:19. Love the Lord, Matthew 22:37. Love him with all your heart, Mark 12:33. If you love me, obey, John 14:15. Love each other as I have loved you, John 15:12. God demonstrated his love, Romans 5:8. Love must be sincere, Romans 12:9. Love builds up, 1 Corinthians 8:1. Love is patient, kind, never failing, on and on, the entire chapter of 1 Corinthians 13. And then at the end of that same chapter, the greatest of these is love, 1 Corinthians 13:13. Do everything in love, 1 Corinthians 16:4. Bear with one another in love, Ephesians 4:2. Speak the truth in love, Ephesians 4:15. Be like-minded, having the same love, Philippians 2:2. Put on love, Colossians 3:14. Taught by God to love each other, 1 Thessalonians 4:9. Consider how you may spur one another on towards love, Hebrews 10:24. Love the brotherhood of believers, 1 Peter 1:22. Do not love the world, 1 John 2:15. God is love, 1 John 4:8 and 1 John 4:16. There is no fear in love, 1 John 4:18. We love because he first loved us, 1 John 4:19. Walk in love, 2 John 1:16, plus many, many others. So if we are taking a general observation and just looking at those verses, what are some observations that we can make about the word love in the New Testament? Well, love is commanded. We are commanded to love, and that command is very universal. We are to love God, we are to love the brotherhood, and we are to love the enemies. And I don't know how you can paint that brush much wider, that we are to love everyone. Love is a verb. Love is an action. Love is something you do. It's not just something that you would say. Love is obedient, as we are obedient to God and his love. Now to the question of the hour. How do I know if I'm in love? In 1976, I traveled to Williamstown, West Virginia to attend a workshop. Williamstown had the largest bus ministry in the brotherhood that I knew of at that time, and I wanted to be a better bus captain, so I traveled with a group of people there. On Saturday afternoon of that workshop, a man by the name of David Powers gave a presentation, and it was entitled, How to Know If You're in Love, the same as our lesson this morning. Well, as a 17-year-old, that's a question I wanted to know the answer to. So I pulled out this visitor card that was stuck in my Bible as a bookmarker, and I grabbed that little pencil that was in the pew, and I wrote these things down. And you can see that it's still in pencil, and it's kind of fading. I have to be careful with it. But I've had this in my Bible ever since. And I've made reference to it several times for my own life and for other people that have come to talk to me about Am I in love? I don't know. So, let's go through these. Maybe you would like to write them down, or you can just call me and we'll work things out, okay? How to tell if you're in love. Do you think of them constantly? Everywhere you go, everything you see, every song that you hear on the radio, every little thing reminds you of them. Oh, the syrup on my pancakes remind me of her. Syrup on my pancakes? Sure, she's the sweetest thing I know. Okay? Do you think of them constantly? I will make reference to her. The slides will be gender neutral in them. Please feel free to adjust as is appropriate. Do you long for them? That draw, that desire to be close to them, just be near them. They don't have to say anything, they don't have to do anything, they just need to be there. I find this particularly strong right now with my adult children, and I just want them to be there. I don't have anything in particular I want to say to them or anything I want to do with them. I just want them to be there. And I look forward to them to coming home, and to be truthful, I enjoy it when they leave too sometimes. Do you want to please them? That desire to meet their needs or respond to their request. Not just a gift, but something that would please them. Not just a word of encouragement or a kindness, but something that they would really, really like. Do you want to please them? Do you want to give them gifts? Gary Chapman wrote a book on the 5 love languages, and he identifies that those 5 love languages are words of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch, quality time, and giving gifts. Are you willing to learn what your friend, your family's love language is and respond to that? Are you wanting to give them gifts? Do you want to please their people? Do you want to please her family? Do you want to please her friends? Do you want to be seen as, oh, he's a nice guy. Oh, yeah, we like him. Okay? Do you want to please her people? And at this point, I will encourage you, if your friends are saying they don't like him, you need to listen to that. You need to listen to that. If your friends and your family and your people are saying, no, we do not like him. Number 6, do you have confidence in them? Do they say what they mean and mean what they say? Do they say that they will do something and then do it? There's a lot of trust involved in this. Do you have confidence in them? Do you concern yourself about your appearance and your conduct? Do you want to look good? Do you want to spruce up? Okay? You don't want to embarrass yourself in front of them, and you don't want to embarrass them. You want to look good. You're concerned about your appearance and your conduct. Can you talk? Now, talking is involved a two-way street, listening as well as talking. But can you talk? Kyle Thomas shared with us his story of having the phone in his room and spending so much time on the phone with Shelley that it was removed from his home, and he wanted to talk to her so bad that he went out and got his own line. Okay? Can you talk? Do you want to talk? One of Elaine and I's first dates, we found a 24-hour restaurant, and we sat there and talked all night. Can you talk? Do your present plans take them into consideration? As I prepare to go to lunch, Do I take their taste into consideration? Do I think of their short-term goals and how they may be included or how they might be excluded if I make this choice? Do my short-term plans take them into consideration? Do my future plans take them into consideration? Can I see them standing beside me as I accomplish some of my lifelong goals? Can I hear them encouraging me to achieve those goals? Can I see them complete my bucket list? Okay, have you scored those? Here's the answers. Here's your score. If you scored 8 to 10 yeses on those 10, then you are probably in love. Okay? 5 to 7, okay, you're in strong, kind of like them, but it's still kind of 50-50 which way it might go. If you're in the 0 to 4 category, I suggest that you look somewhere else. But let's make an application here. Who are you in love with? Or what are you in love with? Are you in love with your job? Are you in love with your children? Are you in love with your hobbies? Maybe you're in love with your sports, the Thunder, the Cowboys, the Sooners. Who might you be in love with? Are you in love with your music? Are you in love with your golf course? Are you in love with your comfortable home and your easy chair? Are you comfortable with your rest and leisure? Or are you in love with God's teaching? Are you in love with God's church and His people? Are you in love with God's plan for salvation? Do you think constantly of God in His creation and His people, His words, His commands, God's presence everywhere? Do you long to be with God in prayer? Do you long to be with God as you read His word? Do you long to live with Him in heaven? Do you want to please God through obedience? Do you want to obey His commands? Do you want to give God words of affirmation? Do you want to give Him acts of service? Do you want to give Him some quality time? Do you want to give Him gifts of your money? Do you want to please God's people? To promote God's people and support God's people and love them? To be present with them? Do you want to please God's people? Do you have confidence in God? Does your faith say that God knows best in spite of whatever horrendous events might be happening in your life? Do you have confidence in God's promises that He has made to us? Do you concern yourself with your appearance to God? Not only your physical appearance, but your conduct. With your church family, at work, wherever you may be, do you concern yourself with your appearance with God? Do you talk with God? Do you talk with God in prayer? Do you talk with Him by reading His Word, by listening to what He has to say? Do your present plans take God into consideration? Do your future plans take God into consideration? Do you plan your life around God and the church, or do you plan church around your plans? Who might you be in love with? Mark 12, 30 through 31 says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. Love your neighbor as yourself." Things to remember. I don't know what relationship that you might have considered as you looked at these things to know whether you're in love, but you can change the way you love them today. The way that you love a person throughout the seasons of life will change. The way that you loved your wife or your spouse or your children when they were young will change from age to age. And you don't have to be afraid of those changes. I believe you can learn to love. I believe you can rekindle your love. I believe you can refocus your love at any time you want. Are you in love? Are you in love with God? To be in love with God, it has an eternal consequence. Please consider your relationship with God as foundational. Your relationship with other people will be dependent upon your relationship with God. This is where you might go back to those laws of spiritual growth. Are you going to be intentional about your love? Are you going to be uncomfortable with the status quo of your love? Are you going to adhere to your love? Are you going to involve your community in that love? And will you continue with your love even in times of adversity? If you need to start your relationship with God, or maybe you need to restart your relationship or renew your relationship with God, maybe you need the prayers of this church as you renew a relationship with somebody within the church or within your family. Or maybe you just have a prayer of thanksgiving. We ask that you come as we stand and sing.